The phrase major breaking news, I think, is a bit of an undersell in this story. I consider myself an IndyCar historian, and I cannot think of a penalty. I cannot find a penalty that has the same precedent and severity of the penalty that has just been handed down to none other than Team Penske. Now, I'm going to remind you that Roger Penske, who owns not only the series, but obviously the team that carries his name, has been penalized for a violation of the push-to-pass rules. And what that has meant is that the win at St. Petersburg for Josef Newgarden has been stripped. His car, along with Scott McLaughlin's car, were disqualified for misusing the push-to-pass. That has awarded the win of the race to Pato Award, ending McLaren's winless streak in the most unlikely of circumstances. And a race at St. Petersburg, which, let's be honest, was one of the most forgettable that I can remember, has suddenly become one of the most important and one of the most unforgettable and notable races of this entire season, and we're only 2 races in. So let's read the press release and the release of this information from IndyCar, which also includes a statement from Penske Racing President Tim Cindric. IndyCar has announced penalties for Team Penske, including disqualifications for the number 2 driver Josef Newgarden and the number 3 Scott McLaughlin, and a 10-point penalty for the number 12 Will Power from the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, on Sunday, March 10th on the streets of St. Petersburg. Team Penske was in violation of the following push-to-pass parameters. Rule 14.19.15. An indicator to enable push-to-pass will be sent via canned communication from the timing and scoring beacon on the board of the car to the team data logger. This signal must be passed onto the ECU unmodified and uninterrupted during all road and street course events. And Rule 14.19.16, race starts at any race restart that occurs before the lap prior to the white flag or prior to 3 minutes remaining in the race will have the push-to-pass system disabled and will be enabled for a given car once that car reaches the alternate start-finish line. According to the rulebook, the violation is considered a race procedure penalty, 9.2.2, which includes the right to reposition the driver/car in the positioning or results, with a disqualification, 9.2.2.6, that includes the forfeiture of any points and awards. During the Sunday, April 21st warm-up session ahead of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, IndyCar discovered the team's possible rule violation. An extensive review of the data from the race on the streets of St. Petersburg revealed that Team Penske manipulated the overtake system so that the number 2, 3, and 12 cars had the ability to use push-to-pass on starts and restarts. According to the IndyCar rulebook, the use of overtake is not available during championship races until the car reaches the alternate start-finish line. It was determined that the number 2 and 3 cars gained an advantage using push-to-pass on the restarts, while the number 12 did not. Additionally, all 3 entries have been fined $25,000 and will forfeit all prize money associated with the Streets of St. Petersburg race. The integrity of the IndyCar Series Championship is critical to everything we do, IndyCar President Jay Fry said. While the violation went undetected at St. Petersburg, IndyCar discovered the manipulation during Sunday's warm-up in Long Beach and immediately addressed it, ensuring all the cars were compliant for the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Beginning with this week's race in Barber Motorsports Park, new technical inspection procedures will be in place to deter this violation. Due to the disqualification of the number 2, the number 5 Arrow McLaren entry driven by Pato Award is now credited with the win on the streets of St. Petersburg. An official final results from the St. Petersburg race is available here, with the updated 2024 season standings available here. Members may contest the imposition of penalties detailed in the review and appeals procedures in the NTT IndyCar Series rulebook. And here's the statement from Team Cindric. Unfortunately, The push-to-pass software was not removed as it should have been following the recently completed hybrid tests in the Team Penske Indy cars, Team Penske president Tim Cindric said. This software allowed for the push-to-pass to be deployed during the restarts of the St. Pete Grand Prix race, when it should not have been permitted. The number 2 car, driven by Josef Newgarden, and the number 3 car of Scott McLaughlin both deployed push-to-pass on a restart, which violated IndyCar rules. Team Penske accepts the penalties applied by IndyCar. And just if you're curious, let's take a look at the point standings as they are after the St. Pete penalties have been applied. Scott Dixon is now the points leader by 2 points over Colton Herta. Alex Palou in third. Pato Award with his now credited win is fourth. Will Power, after only losing 10 points, having not used push to pass to gain any competitive advantage at St. Petersburg, slots into fifth in the championship. And Josef Newgarden, while he had a great finish at at Long Beach, well, he had a great finish at St. Petersburg until he got disqualified, slots into 11th in the standings after essentially not taking part in the St. Pete race at all. But the biggest damage was done to Scott McLaughlin, who is now 29th in the standings, the last driver out of any who have actually taken a start in the series this year with only 5 points. So there's quite a few things to talk about based on what IndyCar has released and also the response from Tim Cindric. But I want to give credit where credit is due here, and this is a very, very serious thing, is that, look, man, I think everybody saw the discourse online with how race control handled the end of last year's Indianapolis 500 and the accusations, which I don't believe really, that race control was going to swing races in favor of Team Penske. And credit to IndyCar taking very, very swift action, harsh action, and frankly, unprecedented action against Team Penske. And you know what? The integrity of the sport, as Jay Fry said, is extremely important. And full credit to IndyCar for protecting that, going after the boss's team. I think that is 100% fair and honest and transparent from them. So I think that's great. I think it's great that they were willing to do it. It's a very harsh penalty. In fact, I could not think of a disqualification. There have been lots of slaps on the wrist, including for race wins. I think, there was one point, one notable example I can think of is that Justin Wilson's win at Texas in 2012, the car had unapproved aerodynamic components on the car. They allowed them to keep that win with a fine, if I remember correctly, maybe a points penalty. I think Ganassi has been dinged at points. I think Team Penske has even been dinged at points for rules violations, but never a disqualification. In fact, the last time a disqualification was levied, at least in terms of a race winner, I literally cannot think of a disqualification that has stuck up and down the field. So this is pretty unprecedented. But 1995, Portland, Al Unser Jr. was found to be in violation of having too low of ride height. Now, there had been some kind of an incident during the race which was not intentionally a competitive advantage. Al Unser Jr. And Team Penske took the ruling to court. Jimmy Vasser was actually awarded his first IndyCar win, or what was at the time his first IndyCar win. But Penske got in an appeals court the race ruling overturned, and Al Unser Jr., you'll see in any kind of text, is declared the winner of the Portland race in 1995. But as we heard from Tim Cindric, Penske does not intend to contest this particular ruling, which would seem to indicate that, maybe the software was installed during the hybrid test, but the fact that Josef and Scott used the push to pass, and the fact that it was still on the cars at Long Beach would seem to indicate some sort of an intent, right? And the fact that Jay Fry used the word and the IndyCar release uses the word manipulation, we are only to assume that this was not necessarily an innocent mistake by Team Penske. But again, if this was determined that they violated the rules this seriously, I think the penalty is justified. It's pretty wild that it is this situation, but here we are. There's some interesting fallout from this. The storyline of McLaren not winning any races, which they hadn't done for nearly, a year and a half, 2 years, that is out of the window. Pato Award is now officially in the record book the winner of the St. Petersburg Grand Prix, a race that is a redemption from last year, where he had a plenum incident while leading the race with just a couple of laps to go. Marcus Ericsson managed to make the pass and cost Pato the win. And now Pato Award is another race winner in IndyCar, but didn't get to celebrate it. I mean, how crazy is that? This is the sort of stuff. And the St. Petersburg race, too, was a race that was not all that intriguing. And now all of a sudden, it is so intriguing. It went from a completely unnotable race historically to arguably one of the most historically notable races in IndyCar history, just because the winner got disqualified. I mean, I cannot think of the last time a penalty has been handed down this severely. But the fact that the violation was found on the cars again in the morning warm-up, no less. I mean, this was on race day when it was discovered that Team Penske had this advantage. I can only assume that's why. I can't imagine a situation where this would have been discovered if this had been a mistake and Team Penske said, well, we benefited from that, but hey, guess what? We took it off the cars for Long Beach. And they didn't, and Team Penske's not contesting it, so what am I to believe there? And obviously, the two cars that were on the podium at St. Pete from Team Penske were the two that ended up on the podium. So it's interesting how that all works. And then you start to think about Josef Newgarden being in the position he was in at Long Beach, second place, chasing down Scott Dixon. There was a restart in there where Josef could have used the push to pass, and I suppose Scott McLaughlin too, although he was a mechanical DNF from that race. So yeah, that totally would have been an advantage at Long Beach had it been applied to the cars then as well. So yeah, it's amazing to think about this. It really is. Again, completely unprecedented penalty, but really kind of an unprecedented violation. I can't even think of a time where push to pass has been manipulated at all. So yeah, wasn't expecting that this was going to be the thing I would be talking about today, the video I would make. I'm still planning on making the video about Zach Brown's suggestions for IndyCar in the future, but obviously this story takes precedent over anything else the rest of the day. So a hell of a story, something completely unexpected, and something completely unexpected about a race that happened 5 weeks ago. Who would have thought it? IndyCar, sometimes you have something in your bag of tricks, you can surprise me. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. I would tell you to leave your thoughts in the comment section below, but I suspect you've already done that. So we'll just see you in the next video.